People always thought I was the quiet girl, the one who never raised her hand in class, who sat at the lunch table with a book or her phone, headphones on, not really part of any crowd. I didn't have many friends at school, not because I couldn't make any, but because I didn't really want to. I didn't like the noise, the gossip, the fakeness. It was easier to be invisible. At home, it was the same. My parents, mom and dad, loved to say I was their low-maintenance child. My older brother, Aiden, was the loud one, the golden boy. He played varsity basketball, got invited to parties every weekend, and was always dragging drama home with him, whether it was about his latest girlfriend or how a coach benched him unfairly. My parents were always in his business. But me? I could disappear for hours, even days, and no one would really notice. They said I was shy, that I kept to myself, that I lived in my own little world. But the truth? I wasn't shy. I wasn't quiet. I was watching, listening, collecting, writing. And while my family thought I was wasting time on my laptop, playing games or scrolling through TikTok, I was actually running one of the most viral anonymous advice accounts on the internet, at the Unspoken Files, and exposing secrets that would blow up not just my high school, but my entire family. It all started when I was 15. My mom and I had just had another fight, if you could even call it that. It was more like her yelling and me sitting there, emotionless, pretending I didn't care. I'd left a plate in the sink. Again. And to her, that was apparently the most disrespectful thing a child could do. "You don't do anything around this house, Maddie," she snapped. "You just sit in your room on that stupid computer all day. What even goes through your head?" I didn't respond. I never did. I just waited for her to finish. "You're lucky your father and I don't ask more of you. You're lucky Aiden sets an example. Otherwise this family would fall apart." That part stung. Not because I believed it, but because it was the same line she always used. Like Aiden held the family together, and I was just excess. I stormed up to my room after that, slammed the door shut, and sat in front of my laptop. My safe space. My real world. I didn't cry. I never did anymore. Instead, I opened a blank document and started typing. I wrote everything she said. Every cruel word. Every passive-aggressive dig. Every way she made me feel invisible. That night, I created the account. At first, it was just for me. A digital journal. A place to vent. But I knew how to tell a story. I always had. I made my posts raw, emotional, anonymous, and real. I never used names. I never said, "my mom." I just said a woman, or a parent, or the person who was supposed to protect me. And people related. The first post I ever made was called, "When You're the Background Character in Your Own Family." I hit publish, closed my laptop, and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to 3,000 likes and 800 comments. They said things like, "I feel like you just told my story. Whoever you are. Thank you for saying what I never could. Please don't stop. Please keep writing. We need this." It was like a switch flipped inside me. For once, I wasn't invisible. I was heard. So I kept going. Every night, I'd sit at my laptop and write. I'd share small stories, conversations I overheard between my parents, passive-aggressive fights over dinner, the way Aiden got praised for C's while I got silence for A's. But I never used names. I was careful. At school, I was still the quiet girl. No one suspected anything. But online, I became a voice for thousands. As the months went on, I started getting messages. People asking for advice, sharing their own stories, telling me about toxic parents, siblings who were golden children, families who looked perfect on the outside but were rotting underneath. That's when I started doing anonymous responses, giving advice, sharing their stories with permission, and sprinkling in my own, hidden within the mix. The account blew up. By the time I turned 16, At the Unspoken Files had over 500,000 followers. Still, no one knew it was me. Not my teachers. Not my classmates. Not even my best friend, Zoe. And definitely not my parents. But here's the thing. I started getting bold. Careless, even. I began writing stories that weren't just about how I felt. I started writing about things that actually happened in our house. Conversations I overheard. Arguments. Secrets. Like the time I found out my mom had maxed out 3 credit cards behind my dad's back and then blamed him when the water got shut off. Or how Aiden cheated on every one of his girlfriends and my parents always covered for him. Because boys will be boys. Or the time I caught my dad crying alone in the garage with a bottle of scotch, whispering that he wished he could just leave. I wrote them all. Changed a few details. Made sure it was still technically anonymous. But the people in my house, if they read it, they'd know. I thought I could keep the two worlds separate forever. But I was wrong. Because one night, my mom came home from work early and she heard something, my voice. I was doing a voiceover for a TikTok I was posting on the account, using a text-to-speech filter. I thought I had locked the door. I hadn't. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face pale. Watching me talk about a woman who always blamed her daughter for everything wrong in her life. "What are you doing?" she asked slowly. I jumped, slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding. Nothing. Just school project. But her eyes narrowed. And that was the first crack. The first time I realized I might not be invisible anymore. I brushed it off. Thought she'd forget. Thought I could cover it up. But from that night on, everything changed. She started watching me more. Asking more questions. Peeking into my room. Looking at my screen. And then one day, I made the biggest mistake of all. I posted a story about something that had just happened, something only someone in my house could have known. It went viral overnight. And that was the beginning of the end. I didn't mean to go too far. Honestly, I didn't. But when you've been holding on to so much for so long, and suddenly you find a way to let it all out, and people listen, it's addicting. Every like felt like a hug. Every comment was validation that I wasn't imagining things, that I wasn't being too sensitive or dramatic like my mom always said. The post that changed everything wasn't even that long. Just a few paragraphs. But it was raw. Angry. Honest. It started like this. Last night, I sat at the dinner table while my brother was praised for showing up late to school but still being responsible enough to attend. Meanwhile, I got side-eyed for asking if I could skip the dishes to finish studying for a test that might decide my future. My mom looked me dead in the eye and said, "You'll never be the problem solver your brother is. He knows how to handle real life." My dad just nodded. I didn't say a word. But inside, I was screaming. Then I added, "It's funny how the people who claim to know you best are the ones who never actually listen to you. Or see you. They just project who they need you to be." I ended it with one question. What do you do when your entire family has built an identity for you that you never agreed to wear? I posted it. Closed my laptop. Took a shower. Came back an hour later and my phone was blowing up. 120K likes. 15K comments. Reposts on Reddit. People were analyzing it. Quoting it. Saying it sounded like it came from a novel. I should have been thrilled. But my stomach dropped when I saw a DM. From someone I didn't know. "Hey, was this about your family? I think I know who you are. I won't say anything. Just be careful. Your mom reposted this to her Facebook. She thinks it's about her." My blood ran cold. I opened my mom's Facebook, using a fake account I'd created months ago to keep tabs on her. Sure enough, she had shared a screenshot of the post. No caption. Just 3 dots and a red angry emoji. And the comment section? A war zone. Her friends were trying to guess who the post was about. Some asked if it was from a blog. Others said things like, "Sounds like some ungrateful teenager who doesn't know how lucky they are. Kids these days love making villains out of their own parents." Sounds like someone in your house doesn't appreciate what they have. That last one? My aunt commented it. I couldn't breathe. I felt exposed. Cornered. I wanted to delete the post. I hovered over the remove button. But the likes kept rising. The comments kept pouring in. People saying how seen they felt, how much the post helped them put words to things they never had the courage to say. So I didn't delete it. Instead, I panicked. I told myself, she'll never know it's me. There's no proof. But the next morning, everything blew up. It started at breakfast. Mom slammed a plate down in front of me, hard. So hard that eggs spilled over the edge. Do you want to tell me anything, Madison? Dad was at the table too. Silent. Watching. Aiden looked up from his phone, confused. I know, I said, trying to act normal. She crossed her arms. Funny. Because someone online seems to think I'm a narcissistic monster who favors her son and treats her daughter like a burden. I froze. My fork hovered in midair. I don't know what you're talking about, I said softly. But she didn't let it go. She pulled out her phone, opened the post, and read it out loud. Word for word. Each sentence landed like a punch. You think this just magically appeared the same night we had that conversation about dishes and your AP exam? You think the timing is just a coincidence? She asked, voice rising. My heart was pounding. But I stayed quiet. Do you have any idea how humiliated I am? She snapped. My coworkers saw this. Your aunt saw this. And they all think it's about me. Aiden frowned. Wait, are you saying Maddie wrote it? Mom turned to him, face flushed. Who else would know those exact details, Aiden? Who else lives in this house and feels so victimized all the time? Dad finally spoke. If you wrote that, Maddie, we need to talk about consequences. That's not okay. But I didn't confess. I did what I always did. I shut down. I looked at my plate. Stayed silent. Let them rant. Let them accuse. Let them burn themselves out while I went somewhere else in my head. But inside, I was shaking. That night, I didn't write. I didn't post. I just stared at my laptop, paralyzed. I had always thought of the unspoken files as a lifeline. A way to survive in a house where I felt invisible. A place where I could tell the truth without judgment. But now, it felt like a target on my back. The next few days were weird. My mom stopped speaking to me completely. She walked past me like I didn't exist. My dad was cold. Distant. Aiden was confused, I think. He didn't say much. But I caught him staring at me once during dinner like he was seeing me for the first time. And I started getting new DMs. From classmates. Some were supportive. Some said things like, OMG, I think this account is run by someone at our school. I swear this sounds like that quiet girl Maddie. The one who never talks. My hands shook every time a new notification popped up. I had spent years carefully building this anonymous identity, hiding behind layers of storytelling and vagueness. But I had gotten too close. Too real. And now, everything I had built, my platform, my voice, my escape, it all felt like it was teetering on the edge of exposure. I thought about deleting the whole thing. Shutting it down. Erasing every post. Every trace. But then, something happened that changed my mind. A message. From a girl named Talia. Hi. I don't know if you'll see this, but I read your post about being the forgotten daughter. And I just wanted to say thank you. I'm in foster care. My biological mom gave me up when I was 6. She told people I was too quiet and not fun enough. I thought something was wrong with me for years. But your story made me realize I'm not alone. Please don't stop writing. Please don't let anyone silence you. I cried, harder than I had in years. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. It never had been. This account, this voice, I had created something that mattered. Something that helped people feel less alone. And no matter how risky it got, No matter how close I came to being found out, I couldn't stop now. Because the truth, the real truth, the stories I had told so far, they were just the beginning. After that message from Talia, something changed in me. I stopped seeing my account as a secret hobby or rebellious escape. It became a mission, a voice for everyone who never had one. For the kids like me who sat quietly at dinner tables where they were never asked how their day was. For the teens who aced tests and never got praised, while their siblings got standing ovations for barely passing. For the girls who were told to smile more, talk less, be easier, simpler, less complicated. I started posting again, but with more care, more intention. No more posts that directly gave away timelines or used details that could tie back to me personally. I changed the pacing of events, shifted the settings. I even sprinkled in posts that weren't about me, once based on stories I heard from followers, blended with fiction. But the heart, the truth underneath, that was all still mine. My followers could feel it. My voice had shifted. I wasn't writing to vent anymore. I was writing to connect. And the numbers exploded. I crossed 1 million followers in just under 6 weeks. One of my posts was even quoted on a national mental health awareness page. They called it the rawest portrait of emotional neglect ever posted anonymously online. People were calling it the unspoken files, a movement. And all the while, in real life, I kept playing the part of the quiet, obedient girl. But at home, something else was brewing. Because even though my mom stopped confronting me directly, she was watching. Her passive aggressiveness leveled up. Every time I walked into the kitchen, she'd sigh loudly and whisper things under her breath like, "Must be nice to live in your own little world." She stopped putting my name on family calendars. Stopped inviting me to outings. There was a silent punishment in place, and it stung more than yelling ever did. Dad wasn't much better. He started locking his home office. He didn't leave bills out on the counter anymore. I think he was scared I'd write about them again. Aiden, though, he surprised me. One night, while I was working on a post, he knocked on my door. Not barged in like usual, knocked. Can I come in? I blinked. Yeah, sure. He stepped inside, shoved his hands in his hoodie pocket. So, I've been reading your stuff. My stomach twisted. My stuff? He smirked. Don't play dumb. I know it's you. I've known for a while. I didn't say anything. My throat felt tight. I saw the post you made about the basketball banquet. The one where Mom said I deserved that weekend trip even though you made honor roll. He sat on the edge of my bed. I was there. I remember. I guess I never realized how messed up it was until I saw it written down like that. I stared at him. He wasn't mad. He wasn't accusing me. He looked guilty. I'm sorry, he said softly, for being so blind. I didn't know what to say. For years, Aiden had been the shining star, the one they built everything around. And for a long time, I thought he liked it that way. But now, I saw something in his eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time, awareness. I didn't realize how much pressure they put on you to be invisible, he added. I mean, I always thought you liked being quiet. But now I see you never had a choice. I looked away, swallowing hard. It's not your fault, I finally whispered. He shook his head. Still, I could have said something. I could have tried harder. That moment, my brother, sitting in my room, acknowledging my pain without defensiveness or denial, it meant more than I could explain. We sat in silence for a while. Then he asked something I never expected. Why don't you just tell them it's you? I laughed bitterly. And say what? Hey, surprise. I've been secretly exposing all your dysfunction to over 1 million strangers online? Yeah, that'll go over well. He shrugged. Maybe they need to hear it. I stared at my laptop screen, heart racing. Maybe, I said, but not yet. Because here's the thing, I wasn't done. There were still stories to tell. Stories no one in my family ever talked about. Stories that explained why we were the way we were. Like the one I posted next. I called it, "The Family That Smiles in Public But Bleeds in Private." It was about the night I caught my dad crying in the garage. He thought I was asleep. He was sitting on the cold cement floor, head in his hands, whispering to himself, "I can't do this anymore." He didn't say it like he was suicidal. It wasn't like that. It was the voice of a man suffocating under decades of pressure. A man who married a woman he didn't really love anymore, raised kids he didn't know how to connect with, and worked a job he hated just to keep up appearances. I had never told anyone about that night. But I wrote about it. And it broke the internet. People commented things like, "I've seen my dad cry like this. It changes you forever. This account understands things even my therapist doesn't. How are you putting my childhood into words I didn't know I needed?" The post got picked up by a podcast. A journalist emailed me asking for an interview. I didn't respond, obviously. The whole point was to stay anonymous. But the exposure was growing and so was the risk. Because while I thought I was staying careful, I made one crucial mistake. I used a quote my dad said verbatim. A specific phrase. "I feel like I'm drowning in a house I paid for." It was poetic, painful, and unforgettable. I thought it would blend in. But apparently, it didn't. Because 2 days later, I came home from school and found my dad sitting on the couch, laptop open, my post on the screen. He looked up at me. "I said this," he said quietly. I froze. "I said this exact thing, Madison. Last year. In the garage. You were supposed to be asleep." I didn't respond. My backpack slid off my shoulder and hit the floor. He closed the laptop. "You're at the unspoken files." It wasn't a question. And in that moment, the truth I had spent years hiding was laid bare, raw and irreversible. I wish I could tell you that the moment my dad found out, he sat me down and we had one of those rare, heartwarming movie scenes where everything came pouring out, and afterward, we hugged and cried and understood each other. But that's not how it went. Not even close. After he said, "You're at the unspoken files," I stood there frozen, my brain screaming at me to lie, deny, do something. But I didn't. I just nodded. His face tightened like he'd been holding back a scream for hours. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I was just telling the truth," I whispered. "Our truth? Our private business?" He snapped, standing up now. "You put our family's life on the internet for strangers to gawk at. You turned us into content." I flinched. "No, it wasn't like that. I changed things. I kept it anonymous." "You quoted me, Madison," he shouted. "Word for word. You used my pain as a storyline." I felt my eyes burn, but I refused to let the tears fall. "Because you never talked to anyone about it. You just bottle it up and pretend everything's fine." He shook his head, pacing now. "Do you even understand how dangerous this is? What if someone connects the dots? What if this ruins our jobs, our reputations?" "Then maybe you should have thought about that before saying those things," I snapped. It came out harsher than I intended. He went still. "Get your mother," he said coldly. My stomach twisted. "Dad. Now." I didn't argue. I walked like a ghost up the stairs, knocked on their bedroom door, and told my mom to come down. She looked irritated, like I was interrupting her precious alone time. But when she saw the look on my face, she followed without another word. Downstairs, she saw the laptop screen first. Then she saw Dad's face. And then she looked at me. "What's going on?" "She's the one," Dad said. "She runs that account. The one you were upset about." For a second, she didn't react. Like the words didn't compute. And then her face changed. Her whole body stiffened. You're the one who wrote all those posts?" I nodded, barely breathing. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but rage. "You mean to tell me you've been sitting in this house, under our roof, eating our food, living off our support, while stabbing us in the back every night online?" "I wasn't stabbing anyone," I said, trying to stay calm. I was surviving. Surviving? You call this surviving? She hissed, pointing to the screen. This is betrayal. This is public humiliation. I couldn't take it anymore. You want to talk about betrayal? I yelled. How about the way you've made me feel invisible for my entire life? Like I'm some background character in your golden boy fairy tale? How about the time you told me Aiden was the real achiever because I wasn't charismatic enough? Or when you blamed me for your arguments with Dad because I asked too many questions? My voice cracked. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because no one in this house ever listens when I talk. Silence. For the first time in forever, they didn't have a comeback. Not right away, anyway. My mom looked shaken, but still angry. You had no right to share our private lives like that, she said finally. No matter how you feel. Dad sat down heavily on the couch. His face was unreadable. And just when I thought maybe that was the end of it, that they'd yell, punish me, maybe take my laptop and call it a day, my mom said the one thing I didn't expect. I want the account deleted. I blinked. What? You heard me. Delete it. Every post. Every video. Everything. I stared at her. I can't. You will. Or we're cutting off your internet, your phone, your laptop, everything. I don't care how many followers you have. I looked at Dad, silently begging for backup. He didn't meet my eyes. I said delete it, Madison. And for the first time, I stood my ground. No. Her eyes widened. What did you just say to me? No. I repeated. I won't delete it. You can take away the internet. You can shut off the Wi-Fi. But I'm not erasing something that helped thousands of people just because you're uncomfortable with the truth. She looked like she wanted to slap me. I told the truth, I said. And maybe if you had actually listened to me once in your life, I wouldn't have needed to tell it online. Then I walked upstairs, locked my door, and cried harder than I ever had before. The next week was a war zone. They turned off the Wi-Fi, took my phone, threatened to send me to a boarding school. But I adapted. I wrote posts on Google Docs at school, uploaded them at Zoe's house after pretending I was working on group projects. Aiden even helped me sometimes, giving me his hotspot when no one was watching. I wasn't backing down. But the stress, it was eating me alive. Because while the account was thriving, now past 1.3 million followers, I was crumbling in real life. My teachers noticed I was quieter than usual. My appetite disappeared. I started getting headaches every morning. And then, one post changed everything again. A girl DM'd me. Her name was Jamie. She said she'd been following me for over a year. That my posts had helped her get out of an abusive home. That she'd found the courage to speak up to a school counselor after reading my breakdown about emotional manipulation. She ended the message with this. Your stories didn't just give me words. They gave me permission to believe myself. I'm 17 now. I live with a foster family. I'm okay. And it's because of you. I stopped reading it, because no matter how messy my world had become, this proved it mattered. That I mattered. That my voice mattered. And then, a few nights later, the unthinkable happened. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the front door slam. Voices downstairs. Yelling. I tiptoed to the top of the stairs. Aiden was screaming at my parents. You can't just control her. She's telling the truth and you're too ashamed to admit it. She's ruining this family. Mom yelled back. No, he snapped. You are. Silence. You act like everything's perfect, Aiden said, his voice shaking. But it's not. It's never been. And you want to know the worst part? Maddie didn't expose us. You did. By treating her like she didn't exist. I gasped. I'd never heard Aiden yell at them like that. He defended me. He chose me. For once. Someone did. The next morning, everything felt different. The house was still. Heavy, but in a way that almost felt quiet. Not the usual tension-charged silence where everyone's ignoring each other on purpose, but a pause, like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I didn't see Aiden before school. He left early, probably to avoid another screaming match. My mom was in the kitchen when I came down, sipping coffee like she always did, but she didn't say anything when I walked in. She didn't even look at me. Dad sat at the table, scrolling through his phone. He glanced up, opened his mouth like he was about to say something, but didn't. And I realized then, I wasn't afraid anymore. They knew. Everything was out in the open now. There were no more secrets left to dig up, at least, not any I hadn't already exposed. And yet, I didn't feel guilty. I felt lighter. I left the house and walked to school alone. That day, something strange happened. At lunch, two girls I barely knew, Rachel and Juliana, sat next to me. Rachel leaned in and whispered, "It's you, isn't it? At the unspoken files?" I didn't answer. I didn't nod. I didn't smile. But I didn't deny it, either. They both gave me this look, not shock, not judgment. Just respect. "We just wanted to say," Juliana added, "your post helped a lot of us. Like, a lot. Don't let anyone shut you up, okay?" I looked down at my tray, heart pounding, unsure whether to laugh or cry. All this time I'd spent being invisible, hiding, writing in the dark. And now people were seeing me. Really seeing me. By the time I got home, my mom and dad were waiting for me in the living room. No yelling. No punishments. Just silence. Mom motioned for me to sit. For a second, I debated running upstairs. But I didn't. I sat. Dad cleared his throat. "We read more of your posts," he said quietly. I braced myself. Not just the ones about us. The others, too. The advice. The stories. He looked tired, older, maybe. Worn down by things none of us ever said out loud. "You're a good writer, Maddie," he said. My eyes stung. "And," he added, "you're brave." We didn't know how much we were missing. How much we weren't hearing. My mom shifted in her seat. Her face was stiff, like it physically hurt her to admit what she was about to say. "I still don't agree with how you did it," she began. "But I get why you did. It wasn't an apology." Not exactly. But it was the closest I was going to get. "I felt like I was screaming into a void," I said softly. "I needed to know I wasn't crazy. That someone out there would understand." Dad nodded. "You shouldn't have had to go online to feel understood." Mom looked down at her hands. "We failed you. In a lot of ways." That time, it was an apology. I didn't cry. I just sat there, breathing it all in. For the first time in a long time, the air didn't feel suffocating. We talked for a long time that night. Really talked. Not everything was fixed. There were still wounds, still years of silence and resentment to sort through. But something shifted. The walls we'd all built around ourselves cracked, just enough to let the light in. The next week, I posted something different. No dramatic story. No emotional advice thread. Just a single post. I used to think the only way to be heard was to scream anonymously into the void. But sometimes, the void listens. And sometimes, so do the people you never thought would. It didn't go viral. But it didn't need to. It was for me. That same day, Aiden texted me during lunch. "Mom told me you're going to therapy now." "That's good. I'm proud of you." I smiled. Therapy was my parents' idea. A peace offering, maybe. But I agreed, not for them, for myself. To unpack everything I'd written. To keep writing in a way that healed, not just exposed. At the unspoken files kept growing. But the content shifted. Less about my family. More about healing. Growth. Moving forward. I still posted advice, still answered messages from people hurting in silence. But I also started posting hopeful things. Stories of reconciliation, of resilience. Because I realized I wasn't just the girl who exposed secrets, I was the girl who survived them. One afternoon, months later, I got a message from someone new, a girl named Clara. I just started following you. I don't know who you are, but your story about feeling invisible in your own house? That one? That saved me. I read it twice, 3 times, and I replied, "You're not invisible. I see you." And I meant it. Because if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that no matter how quiet someone seems, they're carrying stories that could shatter the world. And sometimes, the only way to be heard is to write the truth down, even if your hands are shaking.